baby. If somebody working there and shows no sign of abuse, there is no legal consequences for making this choice.
Okay.
After 60 days, it's considered child abandonment.
If somebody was to come to the fire station, before retiring, they installed like ring cameras similar. So
So there's
something, a notification that, you know, besides them ringing the doorbell at the front of the door of the fire station, they'll know somebody's out.
It sounds like if they hand it to somebody, you can't just leave it on, like you see in the movies, left on the porch, you know?
Because then you try to get the medical information, any kind of medical history you can.
I was gonna say, Chief, is that the next assignment is to build a Dropbox?
No. But I mean, obviously, if something occurred like that, we were so close in proximity to resources, it's knows. And to answer her last question, I am not aware of that ever happening. Now, that could have happened and the fire department would have never told us about it necessarily. But we've never been a part of something like that. And then she asked, just out of her occupational curiosity, what we do to train SPD staff regarding PREA.
Regarding what?
PREA, it's prison rape, equity something. Now I can't think of the acronym. Essentially, it's the rights and protections of those incarcerated. So, if they're abused, while they're incarcerated. So our training is just watching a video, just more so because we don't have a facility here that really pertains to that. I mean, we do transport. So for reference back here, we only have a limited number of hours, 4 hours before we have to either get them to Washington County. If it's an extended investigation where we need to keep them here, then we start providing them food and some of those other things. Not that we don't in the interim, but that's where that timer kicks in, but we're typically in and out in that time. So but we're still bound by having and making sure that we understand it. So it's pretty minimal on that training as far as what we do here.
Prison Rape Elimination Act.
Thank you. Denise.
And there's only a couple holding cells there. Are they ever shared with multiple people or is it kind of one
Nope.
person?
One person per cell, and there are extremely strict guidelines in separation of adults and juveniles, and all sorts of things are in play for that. So, but we try and get people in and out as quickly as possible. And I think if anybody's been back there, nobody wants to lay on a concrete bed.
It's almost.
It's not on my radar.
I was just gonna say, I'm not having personal experience, but like this.
So she had some great questions there, and thanks for looking that up, Kim, because I knew it was 60 days. I just couldn't remember all the way we've done that, but. And then, so any questions just on the legislative stuff that's out there? I mean, it's pretty straightforward, not really nothing we get to have any say in. We're back in short session. I know that there's some things coming down the pipe again, law enforcement related that will impact us, hopefully not dramatically, but
What are you hearing about 110?
so what I've heard is, and this is just my personal perspective of it, is I think they're trying to keep it from going back to the vote. And so that they're trying to work together on both sides of the aisle to come up with something that is reasonable and manageable. And most importantly, this piece that gives us some teeth and makes it a crime again for possession. Now, on the back end of it, it still gives them the opportunity to work through this and correct that behavior and make some of that go away. As I understand it, I think that's, again, there's a lot of moving parts in this thing, but I know that they're working pretty hard not to let this thing go back.
And there's some disagreement about whether it should be a class A or a class C.
That's the big.
Is that where they're
Yeah, because
stuck?
some of it has, longer teeth than others, and so I mean, we're advocating, obviously, we like the A side of it. It just makes them have a little bit more accountability
Right.
to follow through and if they're going to go get treatment. Because if you remember right now, it's a violation to be in possession. And you have two routes. You either pay $100 fee, I believe, and for the most part, it kind of all goes away, or you call a hotline and say, hey, I might need some help, which that doesn't happen either. Check the box. Yeah, and so, I mean, there's really nothing there to keep them accountable, and it makes it difficult for us, because we come across it all the time. And it's, you know, it's woven in between, or in just about all the crimes that we're dealing with out there, so at least having something else to attach to it and hold them a little bit more accountable down the road and make sure they're getting help and on the right path, because as you heard, we have no capacity in our jails for anybody, and probably not anytime soon. And not that necessarily these people need to be there, but it would be nice to make sure that they have to show up and take care of business. So it'll be interesting, because like I said, I think the fear on one side of the aisles, if it goes back to the voters, it will get much tougher. And so they're trying to negotiate it so that there's some balance. Would that be fair to say, Kim? I
Yeah.
think. So with that, like I said, pretty simple, nothing real wazoo on these things. I just saw a few more coming down from the legislation. And then I'm probably just gonna wait till the short session is over and just bring them back again, because I know this is the most exciting part of the PAB, you know. Yeah. So. This is a better way to go through it, just saying. Yeah, this is a little easier to digest. You're like, okay, it makes sense. So unless there's questions on those, I can't remember. Do we have to, I shouldn't say me. Do you guys have to vote on this again, Brian? I think you do, right? Or we decided to go to you then.
We
Forward it, yeah.
To forward it to the. So move that we accept these and recommend them to the council.
All right, we have a motion to accept them and they've been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. Authorize those to continue forward to.
So I went to Portland again today for a meeting into another parking garage. And I've never seen so much aluminum foil stuff in the stairwells. And I've worked downtown for 22 years. And the most we ever in parking garage smelled urine in the stairways, but now it's just, you don't even want to walk, let alone touch anything. It's pretty sad what I see for a place that I used to go to, used to work in every day, so.
It's interesting because we get called all the time to go to job sites, because they find, metal, tinfoil, whatever weird substances. And you know, they will see a pattern like in the same workplace, trying to kind of catch people. So we have testing that we can bring out and do, you know, we can do surface testing or substance type testing to see. And we find a lot of interesting things. So, but it's definitely prevalent. We help employers on a daily basis about the creativity of what people try to work on, in the workplace, so.
I don't think, who was at the awards banquet?
Me.
So one of our video clips, and I don't know if you remember this, when literally one of our officers is walking up to a gentleman sitting in the passenger seat with the door ajar, just, you know, doing his fentanyl. He had his foil right there. I mean, it's like right in a parking lot, in a retail lot. You know,
It's just.
crazy, just rampant. And they're not hiding it.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in a minute.
All right, let us jump into traffic safety committee updates.
All right.
So prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I just want to say that I love going to the traffic safety meetings. They're so much fun. If anyone
You're
here,
not being sarcastic.
no, I'm serious.
They actually are really interesting.
They are.
I know it sounds weird, but like you learn a lot about different areas of the city and what's going on and.
I'll agree to that.
For someone who drives and bikes all throughout the
Oh, yeah.
town, it's like now all of a sudden you're zooming in and just getting this up close perspective of, figuring out the decision making, and then Captain Dano, it's like, just to meet him, it's worth going to the meeting. Okay, so there was 4 main things that were notable that I figured that I'd bring up. 5, there would have been 5, but your wife hasn't put in her complaint yet, so we'll see if that comes. First thing, the speed limit we talked about in last year, how it got lowered here on Edie Road. There's one sign missing, and it's right as you come off Orchards and you turn right. There isn't a sign immediately there, so those people aren't aware of the speed change. So that's something that's on the list to kind of hurry up and get the vendor back out here to put that last sign in. And then once that's done, that one's completely closed up. So someone noticed that, and it's still lingering. The next thing that's still lingering is Elward High School traffic. Turning onto Hay Road there. It's been an ongoing battle, I guess, trying to get some sort of agreement with the school district of how they can help, and there isn't much they're wanting to do. There's the back gate off Kruger that everyone wants opened, and the school district just doesn't want to do it. The last response from them was that they would send a message encouraging people to use the outer turn lane from Elward to turn on 8 and bypass the main parking lot and drop off in the upper back parking
Which I
lot.
did, I saw that.
Yeah, I love the message too, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if the school district sent a
They
message.
did, it was in,
Wasn't it?
but the district sent it in their weekly update
Okay.
last week.
Oh.
So, they had been saying that they were going to, and they hadn't as of our meeting. And the, police went down there and took a survey and saw that there was 6 cars that dropped off that morning. And so we told them, push the district again to, to send that message. And we even offered to put out a joint message that when they were going to put theirs there, then the traffic safety committee, we would author a message and publish it as well. And then I saw the police department pulling out, and I'm hearing the school district did too. So, our chair is going to went together, and that's just pretty much the only thing that we can really do at the moment. The county was out there measuring the width of Elward, because the only other option is to change some striping. It's not scheduled to have any repaving done over the next several years, but that's something where it's, the county is concerned as well. It's like, it is a big traffic concern there when things back up into the roundabout. So the idea of maybe a dedicated straight through lane for those commuters, getting rid of the middle, between the 2 yellows and kind of making it an earlier dedicated left lane, something along those lines. So it's being talked about at multiple levels, and that's pretty much the only resolution is the school encourages people to use the back lot and looking at restriping Elward. It's definitely something a lot of people are frustrated with. But other than that, there was a pedestrian study done up and down Sunset. And there's a couple focus points that need to have some improvement for pedestrian safety. And it's basically the intersection at Pinehurst, which is right in front of the YMCA. And then the next one down at Timbrel.
That's not Pinehurst.
Woodhaven, sorry, not Pinehurst, Woodhaven, sorry. Woodhaven by the YMCA. So that one, it's a long intersection. When you turn off of 99, there's 2 left turns from 99, and more people than not who are in the outer lane, and now you're in the right lane of Sunset. You are trying to bend it to get in front of someone or, get behind them, but you're not making that right turn. And the concern there is maybe the straight lane starts slowing down because they see a pedestrian and the right lane doesn't see them, and they're speeding up to cut over. And now that creates a very dangerous situation. So the third-party surveyor that put together some recommendations, they recommended that the right lane on Sunset merges into one lane before the intersection, And then you can still turn right into the neighborhood from there. But it kind of eliminates that lane, so you don't have to deal with people rushing to get over there. They have to get over basically. And then also installing a push to, flashlight for pedestrian crossing. And the traffic safety committee went ahead and agreed and is passing that recommendation to council.
For the push light or for both?
For merging the lane and putting in the push light. And then the Timbrel intersection. So in comparing the two, when they did a count of pedestrians, there was like 26 or so, somewhere in the 20s that used the Woodhaven crosswalk. And during the same time period, there's 150 some that used the Timbrel crosswalk. So that's a much busier crosswalk. It has a little bit of a turn coming. There's an island with trees, so it's not as visible. There's the Middleton crossing guards are active there because children are crossing at that intersection, and at 5 o'clock when there's traffic, it's backed all the way up heading towards 99 at that intersection. So there's a lot of concern with that intersection in general. And in the interim, the recommendation that the TSC is sending to council is to first move the crosswalk to the west side of that intersection because it'll be straighter and shorter. Right now on the east side, it's kind of going diagonal. It's longer. So moving it over, putting in a push button flash signal, and then looking at a long-term solution of actually putting in a traffic light there, a 3-way traffic light, just to help with the traffic congestion and because of the amount of pedestrians. And specifically with the pedestrian issue with the push button, usually those are solar powered, but with 150 plus pushes a day, you'll deplete the battery too much. So the concern there is that you're going to have to put in the power infrastructure for pedestrian light that can also run traffic signals. So it's like if we're going to start tearing things up and putting in big voltage, might as well consider a long-term solution to kind of revamp that intersection as well. So those are some pretty big things. We spent a lot of time discussing those two intersections, and those are recommendations that are leaving the committee.
So back when I was on the committee, those two were a big deal, but we were waiting to see what happened with the 99 and the redo of with the high school and everything to decide, because we didn't have a sense of what the flow was going to be. And then we had COVID and there was no flow. So like I said, since the first year of the committee, we were worrying about, that was one of the #1 spots.
And there was some discussion about the Woodhaven intersection going, well, there's only 20 some crossings. That's not too busy. But then again, there's going to be a pedestrian bridge that opens up in a year. So now it's probably going to get busier. It's going to increase the usage in that area. So, kind of looking forward, it's like if it's used a lot and potentially dangerous to pedestrians now, all those risks will increase with, teenagers using it more. So it's definitely time to consider revamping those areas.
I can add a little, because we've had work sessions since that.
Oh,
Council's had a work session with the consultants, came out and talked about the idea of the 2 lanes that come off 99. So that one's in discussion and something that major will have to, go into the capital improvement type plan. But the one at Timbrel, at first it was intriguing how they said move the crosswalk to the other side. But then that other side has no sidewalk. So they're also gonna then also still have to cross it. They're gonna have to do 2 crosses. So doubling the work of the crossing guards and doubling the safety. So there was more discussion about straightening the crosswalk where it is now, because it is sort of awkward, a long diagonal, but straightening it, changing the ADA and putting the flashing. So they're still working on that to bring us back some more information on that. But yeah, we have gotten the information from traffic and it's being brought to council. So
Yeah.
Kudos.
I see there is a traffic light, and if there would be a way to tie in to the electrical lines that serve that,
A street.
the street light, and split that off to serve
Oh,
the
yeah.
crossing. that may not be too big of a task for an electrician just to come in and you can put it on the same pole.
And for a street light or for a blinky light?
We can push.
Oh, yeah. So that would be like the quicker fix, right? And then actual street light like you see in front of Sherwood, Hawksview, is that Hawksview? You know, the light on Hawksview. Is a longer term solution. I know our mayor would be really in favor of that, but for now, to at least get the flashing and change the sidewalk or the crossing is kind of the discussion. Nothing's been set in stone yet, but.
Yeah, I think the regular push buttons it's just 110 versus, traffic light, you put the big cabinet sunk in the ground.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger project than.
Yeah, so that'd be an easy fix. I'm thinking on both. I know on that side of the street.
Is Dorian still on the committee?
Yeah.
Because he's Washington County traffic light, so he know what could be done with the power and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's the one who brought up that the solar batteries would run out with that many pushes and so on. So he's a great resource that we have on that committee. And when he gives the motion is, bringing 110 power to this corner.
I love it. I'm very thankful for this committee.
One thing I want to mention, and thank you for jumping in on social media and having this calm presence when these debates come up. You come in with just lots of good facts and no, this is what's really going on, because I watch that thing on derail quite often. And so thanks for jumping in there
It's nighttime entertainment quite often. In the bed scrolling.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and then I see you jump in there and it's like, okay, thank you. All right, counselor news, part 2.
I feel like I've given a lot of news, but I'll just quickly say, we've talked, I think I've given an update on the pedestrian bridge, but we've signed the contract with the contractor. You'll probably see like surveyors and stuff out there soon. We're having a groundbreaking ceremony on March 5th, that Tuesday, whatever that Tuesday, I think it's the pedestrian bridge. Yes, for the pedestrian bridge groundbreaking, and it is scheduled to be substantially complete by September of 25 before school starts. So substantially complete means it can be used, but maybe the landscaping is not done or things like that. So the other thing, speaking about the traffic safety committee, we've talked about this in the past with council, and it was brought up again at goal setting session about the possibility of moving traffic safety committee to its own identity and not under police advisory board. So, they can be their own entity like every other board and commission, and fully staff that with citizens and not have to have double duty on this board too, or you can sit on 2 boards that, because I know you really enjoy it. It sounds like.
And I would agree. I think it's important enough that it should have its own.
Yeah. So, as we started out, it became a sub of this, but so that's, I don't know when and if that would take place, but there's been some discussion on that. And then since I was last here in January, I was appointed as council president, which brings me into a little more meetings and whatnot. So that's in place of the mayor if he can't make meetings or whatever. So it's this short session right now down in Salem, and a couple things we're keeping our eye on is the 110 and then House Bill 1537 or 1573. My dyslexia right now is gone, and that one is really is preempting local control of our land use policies, and some of the things that they are housing is needed, and everybody knows we need housing, and Sherwood's really trying to plan like for the Sherwood West area of many types of housing, including middle housing, so we can have some smaller units for starter homes or our aging population to downsize so they can stay in our community. And some of the things that they are trying to do with this law would basically wipe away a lot of the plans that we just spent the last 2 years on doing over there. So for the last couple months, the mayor has actually been in really good communication with the governor's office, probably better under this administration than past administration, and they've actually changed some of the language due to the mayor and our planning department really weighing in on issues, but last minute, they threw some amendment 9 and stripped some things out, it's just the whole process. I think we have our representatives, our senator and our state rep on board with us as to being no's on the bill, but you never know till they take a vote, right? So that's just kind of where we're at. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out and how that will affect all the planning we just did for that area and whether we want to continue with the UGB ask, really honestly, is in my opinion. I don't know where the rest of the council's at, but.
Wow. Well, thank you.
That's all I have.
Well,
Oh, wait, one more thing that actually is really important. I forgot. I brought it up on my phone. And now it's okay. At our meeting last Tuesday, we had a resolution declaring support for the Washington County Justice System, which is a commitment to partner with the state and county in securing funding and build support, requesting the state fully fund our court systems. So while obviously that's just a statement we're making to support them and really encourage our county to do the funding that it needs in the state. The mayors around here, I think a lot of the cities are doing the same thing to sort of help put pressure on like fund these important things.
Fund the courts, please.
Yeah. So our council did that resolution to support that, so. Okay, now I'm done. Oh, wait, one more. Just kidding.
One more thing. Yeah, a couple of things definitely for us to keep an eye on, both as citizens and community members, but also people that are living in a city that's looking to grow, and what that will look like will very much depend on some of these bills that are currently being bantered around in the House. Thank you for that. All right, staff reports. And if I may, before you, I have a quick question. So we knew about 99 West, the fire there at the house there over by, before you get to, you're coming from, Sherwood going toward YMCA. I thought I heard, if I didn't hear it incorrectly, that a couple of police officers had some smoke inhalation as we take into the hospital.
How are they doing?
Yes. Yes, that is true.
Okay.
That's on my number 1 list.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not
Staff
look at your.
report.
Okay, I was gonna bring it up during the general
Oh.
comments and announcements, but I forgot. Sorry.
Stole his thunder there, Brian.
So speaking of which, yes, a couple days ago, the house just prior to the YMCA there was fully engulfed. And 2 of our officers, one which was one of the SROs, were first on scene, and there was a lot of communication with the people there about who may or may not be in the house. And so with that limited information, they went in to figure out who they could get to, and it was raging at that time, so they weren't able to get up into the stairwell. But as a result, running in with just this, you take in a lot of smoke. And so just out of precaution, they were taken to the hospital and they're fine. They were released back to work. They're all good, but it was pretty awesome. They're willing to run in there and try and save anybody that was in there. So fire, they followed all the laws of the road to get there. We had to beat them there. I had a conversation with the chief of the fire department.
How is it we're beating you to the fire?
I saw from my house, the police car drive by first, for the record, and then the fire followed. I was like,
When did the EMR get there? That's what I want.
oh my lord.
Did they?
Yeah.
We also do that.
But that's, I always say that jokingly, but what has been really cool to see evolve over the last 15, 20 years is just that partnership and how it's really strengthened with TVF&R and the PD and the equipment that we now carry, and just our ability to respond and get there. And obviously we're much better on a perimeter and keeping people out in those situations, but sometimes we got to run in and try and do what we need to do. And so kudos to those officers. To your point earlier, just, running in there with a lot of just really kind of garbled information as to who may or may not really be in that home, but
That's above and beyond duty right there, for these two guys.
so they're good. Boy, I have a real appreciation. I forget how, when you sit around a fire and you get a little smoke, the next day you pick your clothes up and you're like, oh, that smells like a nice fire, a campfire. But there's a difference
Yeah.
of a house fire, and man, their stuff just stinks.
Yeah.
Ugh.
That they were able to go over to TDFNR and use some of their equipment to hose down some of their stuff.
Yeah, and so we stripped them of everything and obviously just making sure everything's clean and new and fresh for them because that's obviously important, but yeah, that was the fire call, for that. So, awesome job by those guys, everybody involved. I mean, that thing could have gone ablaze, pretty quickly because if you're not familiar with the house, I mean, there's just a lot of overgrown brush there and that thing could have just went false, but the time of year helped as well.
You said one of them was an SRO. Are you releasing the names of who ran in? Which officer?
No. Not at the moment. I'm sure we will. I think we were waiting on some things to do that, so. Granted, now you got a 50-50 chance.
I was gonna say.
Cause I
Kind of ruined part of that.
Because I posted KTUs to the community page. Because I remember hearing about the fire as I was coming home and all that. But it was the media that mentioned,
Did they mention names?
no. they
I said no
mentioned-
names are mentioned.
But that's how I found out that there was PD involved
Yeah,
in
they
that
just sent
role.
police officers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Is there some kind of a quick masking system that they could have put on really quickly before going in? I mean, I know it probably was like a rush, but is there something that helps with that or not if you don't have a full?
you need
Not
oxygen.
really,
Yeah.
you need oxygen and you need cover for your head, like the hoods, the Nomex hoods.
And a lot of things that we can put on quickly, is like for OC, or gas. So it filters that, but we're still getting the rest of the oxygen that's out there, but to go into an environment where you have no oxygen. And there's a lot of training that goes involved.
Yeah, ideal age.
Making sure that you can do that. So they just, they willingly went in there knowing, they were putting themselves at risk, but. So speaking of which, I know, Brian touched on it. We just had our awards banquet. It's pretty awesome. I think it was probably our highest attended banquet we've had in quite some time. So I say that because I just think the culture and just the camaraderie and just the investment that the officers are making, not only in the agency, but in the community is a big deal. And so it was fun to see everybody there. I know council was there and some foundation members and Brian was there. And we want to continue to expand that as far as what that looks like, because I think it's really important that people see what officers are doing. I mean, I know we have social media, but it's always good to kind of hear the stories that go with these events.
Expand that how? Because I don't think I heard that at the foundation meeting.
Expanded how?
Now, are you talking about expanding it?
Well,
Like more people come?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the Rock Award
What's that budget?
that Adam got? All I know is he's the Rock and I gave him kudos for that, but I don't know what it meant.
So, a lot of times, police officer of the year and police officer of the year is nominated by their peers. So they're voted on by the other officers who they believe should be the police officer of the year. A lot of times that's driven by stats, just, your arrests, your DUIs, your tickets you write. And those are easy to capture. But then there's always these people that are just the Rock. They're just there for everything under any circumstance. They might not be the highest producer, but they're the ones that are going to show up when you need them. They're the ones that are going to step into roles that nobody wants to take on. And so I think it's really important that those people are recognized because they're just as valuable as those big hitters out there that are beating the streets. And so it literally kind of just formed out of a conversation we had in this room. And we thought, we should do this. And we knew exactly who we wanted it to be because it was easy for what he brought to the table as a veteran officer. He's the SPOA president. He's the guy that people lean on for advice, not only personally, but professionally. And he's always,
And HRT too, yeah.
yeah, he's the one that always comes in with just, he's upbeat and he's motivating and encouraging and so those are the kind of people you need in your agencies. And it's just a great balance of who we are. So that's where that's where that came
That helps
from.
me.
And now I gotta get into the policy, so I apologize, I didn't bring it to you before, but I was like, well, we're behind the ball, so we'll integrate that into the policy because it's in our policy, you see the specific awards that are given out. The other thing I want to talk about was, and actually Kim, Council President Young brought up was a couple of the legislation bills that are down in short session. If you remember the mass harm bill that
Oh, yeah.
Neuron brought up, she's brought it up this third time at the plate for this, about how we deal with people that call in, email, and I'll just specifically go back to the Middleton one here a year ago, 2 years ago, where the gentleman was emailing very specific threats as to what he was going to do to the kids in that school and how we were really hamstrung because we didn't have the tools to do anything. And so we've continued to work on that. I gave some legislative input at their hearing this week, so I think it's gaining some traction. And again, it's kind of like 110. We're trying to, as with any political bill, trying to find the happy medium from both sides of the aisle of what is going to be acceptable. So I hope we have something. It's not what we want necessarily, but it's something that will at least get us
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
That we have
on
now.
the road and moving in a direction, and maybe we'll squash some of the fears of what they believe we intend to try and use it for, and we'll find some successes out of it. So that's up again. And then the other one is a photo red light for buses. So when the buses are stopped and the arm comes out and then people go ripping by it, there's actually technology out there now that will photo capture those violators and then send them a citation, kind of like we do here at 99 and Sunset. Or
Will it be on the bus,
it literally will be on the bus. It's like a little camera, so when the arm comes out, the little camera's there. And so I testified Tuesday, actually, again this week, I testified in one of their hearings, just in support of it on behalf of the Oregon Associations of Chiefs of Police and the Oregon Sheriff's Association, that we support it. I mean, there's some logistics that would have to be worked out with school districts because it's really school district driven, and they have a partnership with the police department and how that would all work out. So that may not be a viable option necessarily for Sherwood, but bigger cities may see some greater benefit from it. But those are the two that are on the plate that I know Rep. Neuron was bringing. So that's super cool. And then the last one I want to talk about is the social media. Thanks again. I mean, I think I've said it before. I think when I became the chief, we're at like 4,500.
You said you would give it to 10.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I know he laughs at me. I go 100 grand or 100,000 is where I want it to be. So I think we're like 2 or 3 away from 37,000. Yeah. I know that it seems like, okay, well, what do these numbers mean? But it's about engagement. It's about how people are coming to us and just they want to know what we're doing, and the support that we're garnishing, the communication that we have with our community, I think is getting better and better. And if you saw the latest one, there was a survey of sorts about, Crime Chronicles and what we wanted to do and the links of that. Part of that was born out of the fact that there's a lot of people wanting to see that. And the fact that we've just got some brand new equipment. I mean, really, really good high-end video equipment to do a bunch of things. We got a great nighttime camera. We got a couple more GoPro cameras. We got a green screen. We're kind of like a high production company, you know, as amateurs. The neat thing about it is that we were able to acquire that out of, it's the opioid money that we were granted the cities within the state. I think it's statewide, maybe nationwide. So we got so much money and we'll continue to get a little bit more of it. But one of the things that from this money, you could allocate public service announcements and education about the dangers of opioids. So council agreed to let us take some of that money and buy this equipment. So we'll be doing public service announcements on the dangers of opioids, and we'll get into meth and we'll get into heroin, and we'll be able to be really creative with some of the messaging out there. And then obviously we're going to really dial up Crime and Chronicles. So stay tuned. We got some fun stuff coming. And I think aside from that, I know Angie will slap me upside the head if I forget this. Save the date is for April 25th at 6 p.m. It's the Western Hoedown to celebrate all of City Sherwood volunteers. So this is going to be an opportunity for everybody that's on all the boards and commissions, to come together and hang out. Do we know who's, is that a dinner thing?
And Phillips.
Phillips, so.
Oh, and then the next night, what are you gonna tell them to come to the next night?
That is literally the next night, isn't it?
Yeah. 2 nights in a row, just book them out on your calendar.
Yeah, then we got the gala. So
Gala.
the Boots and Bling Gala, which that is in full force of recruiting sponsors. I think somebody talked about that earlier. If you want to sponsor a table, you know, donations, if you know people that are just looking to donate some cool things, that would be great. So 25th for all the boards and commissions, the 26th for the gala.
And you can go on Police Foundation website and buy your tickets if you want to attend.
There you go.
Gala. The gala.
Yes.
The volunteer one is not ticket. You don't need to.
You just get to show up.
You just need to show up to that one.
I think that is all I got on my end.
All right. All right, any more comments, statements from board members? Sorry,
I
anything said?
forgot to mention Sir Richard for the traffic safety. You know, one of the most, when we had that professor guy come and talk to us a couple times, and he told us speed bump, no, and all these things, it just wouldn't work. You guys maybe ought to consider tolling, and that may be what works. I think the high school.
Kidding?
That's a great idea.
Parents will have to raise their high schoolers' budget. So they're gonna be given-
It's all about, totally, it's all about getting people out of cars, so that would solve all the problems. You just put a toll on it and they won't drive.
Right.
Are we done? I think
I move that we're done.
I second.
All right, motion and second. This meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you all again for your time this evening, your input.
Thank you.
You know,